Tuesday, a big episode, the longest one of the week. We're going to go pretty far. A lot of big news to jump into. WWE pans out of Boston. They're shipping out of Boston for SummerSlam. AEW has a decisive ratings victory with WWE NXT. Both shows had an awesome night in the ring and outside of it. A huge independent name breaks out big and trends worldwide with AEW in a surprise debut. New Japan has gone evil. And we'll get into that. Plus, Adam Cole drops the F-bomb on a nationally syndicated radio show. So we'll talk about that. A lot to touch on. If you're joining us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Hit like and subscribe. If you're with us on Facebook, like our Facebook page. Also follow it because Zuckerberg wants you to do another thing before you can find out when we're live. And if you're not doing it yet, go ahead and subscribe to WrestleZone the podcast. Get all the audio in one feed. Look for that WZ red and black logo. We just dropped a big interview this week with Doc Gallows, now of Impact Wrestling, formerly of WWE, and he tells us about his upcoming spoof, an entire pay-per-view of joke comedy matches, Talkin' Shop-A-Mania, which looks absolutely hilarious, and we get the skinny on that. If you're with us live, you'll get your comments on screen. If you're with us on social media, go ahead and tell us what you guys think of the show, and thank you for supporting us. Thank you for everyone. Ross Berman is with us. Ross Berman from Tamatonga's Tama's Island, yep. Tamatonga of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Here's a man, when we go east, he is the beast. He tells us what's going on. So I have to tell you about this, Ross. Before we get into anything with the show, we will talk about the big news with WWE involving Boston and SummerSlam here in just a minute. But I think maybe the show that you and I did last Thursday got a great response. Very the biggest show we had last week, all right, was the show that you and I did. And it put us in the top 100 of the Apple Sports podcasts in Japan.
Hell yeah. We're big in Japan, baby.
Big in Japan, baby. All right, we're like those actresses that have a singing career that's only in Japan, like Jennifer Love Hewitt did that.
Yeah, we're like we're Brad Pitt or George Clooney's entire commercial career.
All right, if you're living this live, what is the big news here? A couple of familiar faces. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Timothy J. Tim, Jason Michael Campbell, Michael Off, wherever you're watching the show. If you're watching for the first time, go ahead and shout it out. Tell us where you're watching. It's a virtual couch that you are on. All right, it's Ross and I talking, but we'll be dropping names for you guys in the podcast. Who's that? That's people that are with us live during the show. We're a very interactive show. All right, almost like sports talk radio. All right, like Mad Dog and the other guy. Go watch the documentary. It's a good one here. I am flying off the handle. A lot of caffeine.
You got this. You got Rockstar ripping through your system.
I got Rockstar ripping through my system, the 0 calorie. Let's go right into it. A lot to cover today. We'll talk about WWE SummerSlam. We'll talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll talk about Adam Cole swearing on national syndicated radio. Those AEW NXT ratings. If you're a fan of AEW, you may be happy with it. But if you're a fan of NXT, there are some really cool things they have coming up with TakeOver. So let's get right into what's going on with WWE and SummerSlam. Now, this one is not a surprise, but still a big story. The pandemic continues to be the thing that overarches all of our lives in every single way possible. If you know someone that wanted a wedding, that wedding isn't going to be the same thing. If you have to go to a funeral recently, it's not going to be the same thing. In some parts of the country that were at phase 4, phase 3 different staggered levels of reopening, those are sort of being pulled back. I'm here in Chicago, Ross, you as well, and we used to have indoor bar service. That was for less than 60 days. We had indoor bar service. So now you can still drink on the patio, and they are pulling back. Chicago's in a good spot, but places like California and Florida are not. But the city that was going to host SummerSlam this year, Boston, Massachusetts, they're in a good spot, but they do not want any large events. And obviously, SummerSlam is a large event. And it would have been a multi-night affair, including an NXT TakeOver the night before, and likely a SummerSlam and Raw. Now, that's not going to happen. No surprise here. SummerSlam is shipping out of Boston. WWE did want to do something in Boston. They made it clear to Boston they wanted to try and do something here. And there was some hope that maybe things would be good. That was word that we heard back even in May. WWE even wanted to have live events with fans. According to the governor of Florida, DeSantis, he wanted live sports fans events in July. Now, obviously, that was a much different time when those statements were put out. So I don't hold that against anybody. So here we are. No SummerSlam with fans. This doesn't surprise anyone. Could something happen differently with SummerSlam, you think, aesthetically, in terms of how it's presented, to make it feel different?
I mean, my first guess would be put it on the beach or something to get it the hell out of the Performance Center, because they have done everything they can to make the Performance Center feel different, to make it feel like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and pay-per-views are taking place in different areas, but it doesn't. It still feels like WWE is trapped, and so it makes it less of a distraction. Because all this time WWE has been saying they're putting smiles on faces, they're distracting us from the world, but the more they're trapped in the Performance Center, the more trapped it makes the viewer feel, and the less of a distraction it becomes. And so that's the wall that they're kind of hitting as they realize they're not going to be able to do SummerSlam in Boston. It's even on the Wikipedia that they're not going to be doing the November 22nd in Dallas Survivor Series this year. You're not going to be seeing live events for a long time, but we keep hearing from various rumors and whatever that WWE wants to have a live event. They want to finally get people.
They want to do something with fans in some socially distant way before the end of 2020. I don't think we're breaking any big news by that. There's a lot of sports or entertainment companies that are trying to figure out some way to do this. And we've heard it from people within the wrestling industry. AEW obviously is trying to already do that Daily Center. They've had fans there, very far away from the ring, and they've allowed friends and family there. WWE did it to a certain degree, and then they had an outbreak situation. We're at this point where they're going to keep going ahead. They're going to see something until they have to do a full stop. Major League Baseball is going to start this weekend.
Basketball has already started back up.
Yeah, and did you get a look at what NBA is doing down in their bubble in Florida?
Yes, and it seems like it might not be handling the resources the way that they could be in the middle of a pandemic, because a lot of the tests are now being diverted to the bubble that were for just the entire state. But it is an interesting vibe, because like you said, the NBA is now running in the bubble where it doesn't feel like the NBA. It feels like some rich sultan has paid all of the NBA players to perform for him.
Yes, if you haven't seen it, the set they have for it is pretty impressive.
It feels like a private show. It feels like something you're supposed to be betting on in Vegas, and you're not. That isn't supposed to be happening.
There were some things I saw from it that I wish that AEW and WWE tried to do production-wise. It has a curving kind of LED. Basically, the entire court is surrounded by a screen, and they can cover any negative space with some type of visual bright element. And there is some things that WWE's done, like specifically with the entrances. They look really impressive. They're doing like superimposed graphics they had in arenas before. Now look even better without fans there. You get to, when like the New Day cartoon graphics are kind of floating over them when they come out. When Cesaro comes out, it's a big deal. Stephanie McMahon did a kind of Q&A stream yesterday with Ad Age, and it was more just corporate things, how they're adapting, all these different things, they're pivoting, a lot of corporate speak things. But she noted that they're trying to do production elements that negate all the different negative space they have, like to fill it out and do different things, even if it's a virtual ceiling. If they can do a virtual ceiling on top of the room, they will. And it does add for some fun things. I agree with you. Maybe put it on a beach, put a ring on a beach.
And really, I feel like WWE would benefit so much from having half of the lights and lasers that they have right now. Because right now they have an arena's worth of lights and lasers inside of a warehouse, and it is an assault on the eyes. I mean, you saw the Sunday show. A lot of between the bright lights and the amount of lasers they have, it's a wear on the eyes in a way that it just doesn't have to be.
But I also think we're just in this tough spot where I do think they do have to try something. So I don't blame them for it. And AEW has done it as well. I mean, AEW benefits from being in that open air amphitheater, so they can do pyro.
Exactly.
And it's just circumstantial, and WWE had to go with what they have. They did that fun thing on top of the headquarters, which I thought was visually one of the more fun things they've done all year in terms of production. So WWE out of Boston, no surprise there. Obviously, if you follow the news, there is some good traction with a vaccine that we could hopefully get by the beginning of 2021. But then getting that out and then your post-germ, thing.
It's going to be a very long time before there are thousands of people in a room to get. Like, I think independent wrestling is going to come back stronger first, simply because you have that 500 cap.
And it's state by state.
Exactly.
State,
and it's territorial. It's able to work closer with the local governments. Whereas, I mean, that's why WWE is in Florida right now, is they have a relationship with the government, with the Florida government. And so they're able to actually know what precautions the state is telling them to say. Whereas if they were traveling, they literally
You want to hear a crazy thing? I'll say this too, just in terms of the spot. I think we'll have a WWE live event in Canada before we have it in the United States in front of fans. And that's just because Canada's pacing ahead of us right now. But they aren't letting people go above the border. So
exactly. But it still speaks to the kind of outside the box thinking that a lot of people are going to have to employ. Because like you're looking at executives from like Live Nation, Lollapalooza, a lot of the major festivals.
On that. Yeah,
they're putting it at 2021 maybe, but really they're saying you're not going to see giant events that call for people to travel from out of state until at least like 2022, when you can know that every state has taken into account, because right now, if you ask someone to fly in for WrestleMania, you have to trust they're coming from a state where all of the precautions are being met and that person is following that state's precaution, and there's just too much risk between getting them from their door to the arena or from getting them from their door to the event. And so until that travel risk is mitigated, you're not gonna see these big WrestleMania sized events.
And they'll do.
They'll make it work. They'll figure it out.
There'll be some challenging things. We've had taped pay-per-view matches. We've had parts of the show live, parts of the show not live.
We've already done a WrestleMania in pandemic. We know it can be done.
Yeah,
so they will figure it out.
I've said this a couple of times about the you mentioned the Live Nation thing, and Live Nation, for those of you who hear the name and don't know exactly what that is, they're the largest event promoter in the United States in Canada, and they own through Ticketmaster. They also own a lot of different venues, a lot of the arenas that you see AEW or WWE run, or anything. If you've been to a rock concert arena, you've likely been to a Live Nation show.
U2, Coldplay, all of
big
those,
ones. And they own a lot of stadiums as well.
Yep.
And they have the amphitheaters and all the different stuff. They have kind of quietly, they haven't officially said it, are looking at the idea of maybe not doing anything until the end of 2021, small scale. That's like under 2,000-3,000 people. And large scale, one of the founders of Lollapalooza said, I don't think, publicly he said this, I don't think you're going to see a large event until 2022. Now, I've talked to people I know in the entertainment industry through me working in the music world, that what he's talking about is something like a Lollapalooza, like destination festivals.
Yes.
Which really is a WrestleMania.
It's pretty much any pay-per-view event.
Yeah,
because if you think about especially one of the big four pay-per-views where they're not only asking for a Sunday night, they're asking for Saturday for TakeOver, Friday for SmackDown, Monday for Raw. You're asking for people to travel. You're asking for it to become this tourist destination. And what you're seeing is a lot of, outside of Disney World, who are already facing their own problems, places like Broadway completely closed. You're not going to see Broadway for the rest of this year.
We're getting some Zoomed Broadway shows before
we'll get some Zoomed, but that's still, at the end of the day, Broadway was $12 billion with a B that is no longer in the New York economy. And that's a small percentage of what WWE pay-per-views, especially Survivor Series, especially SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, they turn that city into a tourist destination for a weekend. And until you can safely afford to turn a city into a tourist destination, unlike a city like Orlando, where year round they are always a tourist destination, and so they have slightly different.
Also, their tax revenue systems are built around out-of-state revenue coming in.
Exactly.
That's why you see Florida doing all this stuff with Major League Soccer and NBA and all these different things. Like in county by county, they're built up for that. So it's kind of why they're in this situation, though, too. We hope you guys are staying safe, honestly. I know this seems like lip service. I will say it until you tell me to stop, because I want that message put across here.
Well, you and I we're both in the live entertainment business. We need crowds at some point.
So
we need to get because like and you've got an immune system. So you're at the point where you can do some of the socially distanced comedy shows, and you can get a little bit of the audience back. But I'm not playing a concert until 2030.
I think you'll see comedy shows with big names in small clubs before. I'm talking like arena level names in small clubs before the end of the year or something like that. If things are good. Yes. I hope we're smart out there. I hope everyone's okay. And we're going to get to the point where you're going to know people that are personally affected by this. This is going to go. We're going to keep going to that point. And if you do know anyone, I'm really thinking of you guys. I've gotten those sad phone calls from out of state from a couple of people right now, and it is not easy to have that phone call. No. All right, so I hope you guys are safe. Let's get back to wrestling. I know we kind of we're every show we're going to do where is WWE, where is wrestling with COVID right now. That's kind of where it is.
Yep,
they're in a fluid situation here.
Exactly.
Let's get back into the ratings. Of course, every Thursday we always want to know what those ratings are. And these ones were significant now. WWE had that 3-week run on top with the overall number, but AEW sustaining the demographic number. They continue to sustain the demographic number. AEW takes the overall number last week, and now the gap spreads a little bit further. Here are the ratings for July 22nd. These are the overnight ratings, not complete. Usually sometimes these different numbers but these are indicative of something. Go ahead, Ross.
It's a massacre, dude. This is bad. This is bad on every level for WWE. In the men 18 to 49, WWE barely got half of the audience that AEW got. AEW this week was number 1 for men 18 to 49. They beat Guys Grocery Games. They doubled Guys Grocery Games in that demo, in fact. They beat The Challenge. They beat Real Housewives in that demo.
That's great.
The closest to them was Tucker Carlson and Hannity. That's it. They got a .44 in the men 18 to 49. Yeah, no, they got a .44 in the men 18 to 49. But the female 18 to 49 really tells the story because WWE got a .1 in the female demographic, and AEW, despite whatever you have to say about AEW's women's roster, women are watching twice. They got a .2. They literally doubled WWE's female audience last night. So they are doing something. I don't know. What you can speculate to whatever it is, but they are clearly bringing the men in. They're bringing the women in. They are holding on to that overall number 5 spot in the cable telecasts. Like AEW's, they may start running away with it soon if WWE doesn't find a way to stem this bleeding. Because AEW overall 845,000, WWE overall was 615,000, and so you're starting to see that gap get a lot wider.
But it is doable.
I'm not saying it's not doable, but but especially this week.
Wide gap.
Yes, because this is the first week since the 3-week run of AEW pay-per-views where it's just Dynamite versus NXT. Because last week was Fight for the Fallen versus NXT, and so there is this disparity between the cards, but this week was just one episode of television thoroughly trouncing another episode.
I wonder what NBA and sports coming back. There's going to be NBA games on Wednesday. I think both shows are going to get hit by that.
Oh, absolutely. They will absolutely. And as we get deeper into an election year, you're not going to see Tucker Carlson and Hannity lose rating. Really, the news is going to start running away with this in a second.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you there. But let's talk about both shows.
Yep.
Obviously, we touched on AEW first. I didn't get to do a post show last night. We had some tech issues, so that's why that didn't happen. But AEW is your winner. They had some strong stuff out last night. They announced that women's tournament. They're going to do a women's tag team tournament.
Yep.
This is something I thought WWE would do before them, just in terms of roster depth. And AEW has been critiqued several times that they have some strong women, but it doesn't compare sometimes to what WWE has overall. They just have more. They just have a deeper roster. I do think this is a smart move. Kind of has a deadly draw element, another old WCW-ism that they like to pull back on. And they presented in a video package a handful of different teams that are going to be a part of it. I know that it seems seemingly Allie and Brandy Rhodes are going to be a team on this. How else do you see this kind of panning out?
Well, they've based on the women's roster, I think they have enough for about 5 teams, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see 3 teams from the independent scene find their way into AEW. I think it's a good call. I think until they have a division strong enough to support a women's tag title, having a women's tag tournament is a good way to build that division, give them something to fight for without necessarily diluting the idea of the women's tag title before it can even become a thing. It sounds like a good idea, and especially when you look, we can talk about the AEW's women's division as much as we want, but AEW right now has women where it counts, and that's in the seats. Like they have, like I said, they doubled WWE's female audience last night, and so if they have that many women watching, it means they have that many women putting pressure on them to give them women worth watching. And so as they keep running away with the women's demographic, I think it's going to mean that they have to invest more in that women's division. And especially like I said, if they have to bring in 2 or 3 teams from the independent scene to fill out that women's tag division, or to fill out that women's tag tournament, then they're going to have 3, ultimately 6 more women that can get that spotlight. And so it's a good chance to pad things out. It's a good chance to really make good on some promises that I think a lot of female fans don't feel have been fully fulfilled yet.
We got to see a little bit of Brian Cage and Darby Allin get into it last night. We did get to see a lot more presence of the demo god, Chris Jericho. But I think the big story on the other side of the action with the men in All Elite Wrestling, we will talk about WWE NXT and their Rocky IV ending that I absolutely loved. I thought it was my favorite. It was my favorite storyline thing of the night. But something very compelling that All Elite Wrestling did is they were teasing the Open Challenge. Now, they've been utilizing this to be the kind of spot for outside of AEW debuts to go up against the guy in AEW, in Cody, who is the TNT champion, similar to what John Cena was doing years ago, where he'd be like, I'm a champion, I have the mid-card title, anyone wants to come out and get me, here's an opportunity for somebody to just show up on the show and do it, right? Wrestling fans love a surprise, right? So we had Ricky Starks come out. He had a phenomenal match a few weeks ago. They did Sonny Kiss, kind of a lower card wrestler. People wanted to see some things happen. That was last week. They had a great match. But they were teasing a top independent name that hardcore fans would respond to. And who would this name be? He has been on television for Impact Wrestling. He's been on TV, on YouTube screens for NWA. But if you're a hardcore wrestling fan that has followed Evolve on the West Coast, Chikara, AAW in the Midwest, even PWG sometimes over on the West Coast as well, the name Eddie Kingston is known. He's not a journeyman. He is a guy who literally took the gimmick of going to jail as a young kid and turning it into a character. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, maybe one of the best promos that is not signed to a major company. And a real street thug character, legit, and that isn't like an insult. He gets the angle, he gets the debut, he gets to cut a salacious promo that I was very surprised what they let him say. And it definitely seemed like he got an opportunity there. And went to the tilt here with Cody Rhodes in a phenomenal match. Maybe the best physical shape I've seen Eddie Kingston. But Eddie was never a body guy anyway. But he definitely got himself in a condition for this. Looked great, pulled out thumbtacks in his debut on a guy he's definitely trying to beat and impress, but maybe win a contract with. Goes the distance with him. Like this is the most of any I've seen anyone. Cody has made people look good in these matches, made them competitive, but he beats you, right? Yeah. The Sonny Kiss one was kind of like that, but once it was going in Cody's way, you knew it was going in Cody's way, and then he finished it off. This was something where Eddie had him a handful of times, and Eddie beat him up real bad, and almost made him bleed basically, and all these different things. Quite the debut, and he trended worldwide in the top 20 on Twitter last night. Good night for Eddie Kingston, and hopefully this turns into a full-time deal.
Yeah, hey, from your lips to, I don't know, Tony's ears, I guess is what we would be saying, but because Eddie Kingston is one of those guys that if you have invested yourself in the independent scene, whether you're in the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest, the Northwest, the Midwest, wherever, you have seen him. He has, if it is an independent company, he's been there. He has been on the mic. He has trash talked one of your favorites at some point in your independent fandom. And so to see him finally get his flowers like this is something truly heartwarming. And to see him get his flowers in, I don't know how to put it except for such an Eddie Kingston way. Because it's like you said, he didn't just get to cut a promo. His promo was his entrance music. He didn't have entrance music. His entrance music was him telling Cody that he was going to put him in the ground and smile. That is unique. Mm-hmm. That is something you don't get a lot of in wrestling right now. And so to make that kind of an impact, to make that kind of a statement in your national TV, cable TV debut, yes, he was on Impact, but we don't know what the viewership is for Impact. Impact has always been on this on this other world. They make good moves. They've been making good moves this weekend. I'm not trying to, be pejorative against Impact. I'm just saying
this is Major League.
Yeah, there's a difference.
AEW is the Major League right now.
Yeah, there's a difference between being a faction in Impact and being opening a show on TNT, because he opened AEW Dynamite on Turner Network Television. Eddie Kingston, 18-year veteran who, like I said, you have seen him go everywhere. As it was just revealed on Twitter, he may have been Dragon in Chikara, which is just a lot of fun to think about. Mm-hmm. This man has been there. He has done that. And so the fact that he hasn't been on TV in this way like this until now is criminal. And so it feels like there is this justice in the world that guys like Eddie Kingston are getting their due. That guys like Eddie Kingston are allowed to powerbomb Cody into some thumbtacks. I mean, they really did. The whole match was built around the fact that Eddie Kingston screwed up his knee midway through and Cody took advantage at the end. Like, it was really, Kingston was the one who screwed himself over. And so you can't even say that Cody beat Kingston. Kingston beat Kingston.
Yeah,
and I think that's something you
sign him, right? They have to sign him at this point.
If they don't, they're idiots. Like, there is no other word for it. If they don't sign Eddie Kingston, they are letting one of the greatest free agents, because with the amount of spotlight they gave him, he's one of the hottest free agents right now. Yeah, and so if they don't sign him, they are dumber than anyone could ever know.
Well, I wouldn't say if they're dumber than anyone knows.
No, like, if they have financial reasons they can't sign him, I totally get that. But if they're not trying to put Eddie Kingston pen to paper under whatever means they have, then yeah, they're idiots.
Yeah, and there's some people they've signed to deals that aren't fully committed, where they get them for dates or things like that too.
Yeah. So, no, we need to see more Eddie Kingston ultimately.
If I'm AEW, the reason I want him is he's a real male 18 to 34 type character. I've heard people describe him as I know you love the show, The Wire. He is a guy who got out of prison, knows the game. He's
Omar. He's Omar, baby.
And he's Omar. And I think you've been in a room with Eddie once or twice.
Oh yeah, I met Kingston. Yeah, I don't know Eddie, but I've met Eddie.
Sure. I don't know Eddie well, but I've been able to work with him specifically on promos. Mm-hmm. And I got to do interviews for a period of time for AAW in Chicago, and I didn't see anyone where you see the camera turn on in their eyes, and he understands how to casually, transparently turn it on. And at the same time, they don't want you just to turn on. They want you to turn on and be realer than real, larger than life. That stone cold element where it's like you are all the way on. You are yourself with the volume turned up, amplified. It's your soul on steroids, right? Mm-hmm. And that is what Eddie Kingston is. This idea of I was in prison. I have to, when I walk down the street, I got to make sure that somebody I robbed when I was 21 doesn't see me. So I don't have to, mm-hmm. And you're just like hearing these things, and he's talking about real shit, and people love that, and they want a character like that. And I do think there is this sense of, we have guys that can go out and have quote unquote 5-star matches. Mm-hmm. I don't think they have a 5-star promo outside of Jericho and Moxley and a handful of other people. Like, in terms of a guy where he says things that people will be quoting for years to come. Mm-hmm. Eddie Kingston is a guy like that.
Well, it's not just in what he says, it's how he says it. Because a lot of guys can cut the promo Eddie Kingston cut, but when they do it, they're going to look at the crowd. They're going to look at the hard camera. They're going to look everywhere except their opponent's eyes. When Eddie Kingston told Cody, "I'm going to put you in the ground and smile," he looked him right in the eyes and he said it directly to him. And that is a level of threatening that I think a lot of wrestlers are afraid to. I think a lot of wrestlers are afraid to threaten another wrestler like that. They're afraid to actually make someone fear for their safety, as understandably so, because it's a business where you want to make sure that your opponent is taking care of you, right? Because it's ultimately the kind of thing where you want to be able to trust them, but you also want to be able to trust that they can look like a badass. And there's nothing more badass than looking at someone dead in the eye and telling them that you're going to put them in the ground. Like that is
Ross. I'm going to put you in the ground, Ross.
It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. And we also aren't talking about we're talking about how it's great to have a good promo in AEW, but we're not talking about the fact that it will be great to have an 18-year veteran who has seen the things Eddie Kingston has seen to be talking to someone like MJF, to be talking to someone like Jungle Boy, to be talking to someone like Darby Allin. They have so much.
Yeah,
they have so much young talent they can learn from Kingston that it feels like a natural fit.
Yeah, that's a twofold reason for him. I honestly would love to see more of him there.
Mm-hmm.
Over on NXT, Keith Lee is no longer the North American champion. That was their big announcement they teased going into the show.
How do you have your finger that off the pulse that WWE has double champions, New Japan has double champions, the double champion bug is being caught, and WWE has one of their most popular guys with two of their most popular championships, and they go, you know what? He's too good. He shouldn't have one of those titles. He is being punished. He's being punished for being so good that he beat the world champion.
Yes.
That is some screwed up logic.
It's
only in WWE. Only in WWE.
I agree. Only in WWE. But I'm not opposed to it because it was like what they announced. Oh, he's dropping the title. But it wasn't like he's dropping the title and the title's just vacant. No. It's he's dropping this title, and here's the track we're going to do to get a new champion. So it did have some grounded polish of here is the set of competition. We will have qualifying matches and a ladder match, which was the match they used, a multi-man ladder match to establish the title in the first place. And it was a 5-star classic, right? You remember that ladder match when they went with this? They had Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole and EC3, and it was a takeover, and it was awesome.
Yes, no, I remember. It was they have done it. They have done it before. Like this is my problem is WWE was telling a story with the North American Championship of it getting to this point where the North American champion was so good that it was no longer the secondary title. It was now all of a sudden a title that's that's at the level of the NXT World title.
So you're disappointed you didn't get to defend both belts.
And instead of embracing that, they say, well, nope, clearly Keith Lee has gotten so good that he's beyond the North American title. He's too good for the North American title now. And so now the title has dropped from this height that it was taken to the absolute beginning, where now we're going to have a multi-man ladder match to determine who the secondary champion in NXT is. And maybe, just maybe, if that champion or the champions that beat him work hard enough, they too might get to the point where they're too good for the title and we have to have another multi-man ladder. Do you that is the most repetitive Sisyphean storytelling I have ever heard in my life. Sisyphus was being
another wrestling podcast.
Sisyphus was being punished for stealing fire. And they made him roll the boulder up the hill and it would go back down. This is someone who worked so hard that they made the North American title on the same level as the world title, and they're being treated like they stole fire from the gods. That is just bad storytelling.
All right, so you're not a fan of it, I can tell.
No, not at all.
I didn't, to me, it was just like, I'm okay. Because I didn't mind what they set up. So I was like, if you're going to do that, you better set something up really cool. And within 10 seconds, I thought they had something neat. That I was like, all right, you've wrapped this up nicely. Okay, so I'm okay with this. And what they're going to do is pretty cool. We had a triple threat match with Bronson Reed, Johnny Gargano, and Roderick Strong. Now, Roderick Strong, he's had the belt before. Johnny Gargano's had it. Johnny Gargano's triple crown champion. Oh, Bronson Reed's there too. No, Bronson Reed wins the match. A banger match. And Bronson Reed, the thick boy from New Zealand, goes the distance and qualifies for this upcoming match at TakeOver, SummerSlam. TakeOver Triple X. Better be a Vin Diesel tie in there. But I was very surprised by that. A great opportunity for Bronson Reed. And everyone says with WWE, like, oh, they need more star power. They need more established names. I wouldn't say Bronson's a super established name right now, but I am surprised how much NXT says, even going up against AEW, we still have an eye on the future. We're still going to try and take risks and develop people and push some people. And as much as people look at Raw and SmackDown and say, these are the guys I like and they're not doing anything with them, or I want to see that guy get an opportunity, I was very happy to see Bronson Reed get a huge win over Gargano and Strong, guys that have value in their names and have already gotten their marquee rub already. Great win for him. And the next triple threat qualifier will be next week with Finn Balor, Dexter Lumis in action. The third name will lose me there. I think Killian Day may be in that match.
Okay, then I gotta believe Dexter Lumis is winning that one.
Oh,
because you've got no, because like these all have all of these triple threats are following a pattern right now. Like you've got Bronson Reed playing the guy that you originally go into it thinking, you know, he might be taking the pinfall or whatever, or maybe they're just trying to keep him in the picture, but they don't want him to take the whatever. No, he's going to win the match and go on because he's a young star who isn't at the point where he's too good for the North American Championship. Same with Dexter Lumis. You put Dexter Lumis in that match, and all of a sudden you've got another young star, and now you've built this match where it's nothing but young stars, and it does a lot for them in the moment. But because you have robbed the title that they are fighting for of any of its weight, of any of its gravity, it's going to ultimately be for nothing. It's going to be like when WWE does those multi-man matches for the Intercontinental title you don't even remember who's in them a year later. You just remember who won, and even then you don't remember how they lost the title. It all just becomes part of the chaos. Imagine if Keith Lee had both titles, and maybe he doesn't have to defend both of them, because ultimately there's nothing that says he would have to defend both of them. But if Keith Lee had both of these titles and they're being treated as the same, one doesn't have to be stripped away because he's ascended above it. Whoever beats him for that North American title is on level with the world champion instead of being the guy that won a secondary title. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because if Bronson Reed beat Keith Lee for the North American Championship, Keith Lee is still your world champion, but Bronson Reed is all of the sudden not your secondary champion. He's this young upstart who has been given what feels like a main event push, and then you can even keep him in the mid card. But it's what they did with the Intercontinental title over in New Japan. It's what they did sort of with the X Division. It's what they refused to do with the X Division title in Impact. They have that option C that makes it like a Money in the Bank thing. But if you let the title take that ride with the champion, it does nothing but good things for the title instead of undoing all of the momentum that the North American Championship brand has gained over the past 2 years and starting from scratch. It's hard for me to get excited when WWE puts out a fire and says, don't worry, we're going to start another fire. I know it's cold right now, and I know we could have kept the fire burning and we could have kept you all warm. But it's gonna be cold for a little bit. I
counter with, I think they're doing something with guys that you're surprised they're going with. Like I like the idea. You bring up Dexter Lumis, you bring up other people that like, all right, they're elevating them and they're giving them an opportunity. And they're giving them an opportunity to fight for something with real stakes.
No,
I'm okay with that.
They're not elevating them to the level that they say they are, because ultimately. When you take the North American Championship away, it puts a ceiling on anyone that's competing for the North American Championship. And so you can say they're elevated, but if all you've done is if all of these guys are on the bottom, and then the next level, and then you just add a level between where they're at and the next level, they're not elevated. They're still at the bottom. They're just a slightly higher part of the bottom.
Well, let's talk about something strong here. Let me reel up here to the main event. They promoted Donovan Dijakovic against the Walking Apocalypse, one of the best debuting characters of 2020. is Karrion Kross. Formerly known as Killer Kross in Impact Wrestling. He has maybe the best entrance in the pandemic era with the Fall and Pray theme song and Scarlett Bordeaux being his demon-esque princess who walks him to the ring. Quite the entrance. We talk about, WWE and studio set wrestling with minimal fans and everything. He's quite the entrance and quite the wrestler as well. Very calculated, very violent, and gets out there and does something. He's set to take on Keith Lee's rival buddy, his pal, 7-footer Donovan Dijakovic, and they get the main event. This is a strong match. Donovan Dijakovic gets to put the most physical offense over on Kross that we've seen from anyone. 7-foot man doing topes over the top rope. Okay? Mm-hmm. That is an NBA center. All right? That is an NBA center going heel over foot on the top rope. But it's for nothing. Because Karrion Kross is going to smash your head between the ring steps and the ring post. And the ref almost stops the match. But he doesn't want to stop the match. The ref almost going to stop the match when he's taking those forearm smashes. The ref's not going to stop the match. Don't stop the match, ref. Keith Lee at ringside, almost going to end the match for him. Going to interrupt, going to interfere, maybe get the referee to stop that match. No, they keep teasing it. And it was a very good tease. And Dijakovic said, no, I can take it. And he's not defending himself, right? So using his combat sports psychology. And now Kross is looking at Keith Lee at ringside. Are you watching this? Are you watching what I'm doing? And he puts a sleeper on him, and it's over. And Keith Lee could have helped his friend. He didn't. And Dijakovic said, don't do it. I can take this. It was very, very compelling psychology. It is a Rocky IV element.
What the hell is going on over at WWE? You got Karrion Kross trying to kill people with the ring steps. You got Seth Rollins plunging people's eyes out of their foreheads. Like, what? Someone needs a hug. Someone at WWE needs a hug. But it's getting too dark. It's getting too dark and too bleak to the point where I don't want to watch that. Well, I don't want to watch Dominik Dijakovic almost get murdered by Karrion Kross. I want to see a wrestling match. I want to see a sport. I want to see something that isn't going to make me feel like I'm witnessing a snuff film.
I liked it because I know that it means more now when Keith Lee and Kross are in the ring. Like it really threw some gasoline on.
But what does it mean for Dominik Dijakovic? Because you're talking about one of the largest guys that NXT has right now is being fridged in the name of this.
Fridged. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, because he's not. His suffering isn't for Dijakovic. It's not to make Dijakovic a stronger competitor. It's to make Keith Lee more mad. All of his trauma is about someone else. It's not about Dijakovic. And so it does put him in a position where one of the tallest, strongest guys that NXT has does not look great right now. You could have literally done this with anyone else. Mm-hmm. You didn't need Kross to kill the biggest guy ever.
You just would have liked it with somebody else. Maybe if there was a smaller guy they could do this with, and maybe it was different.
Yeah, because I don't know. Part of it is I'm not as invested in Lee and Dijakovic as friends. I think they're better rivals, and so I don't buy into the idea of this making Keith Lee I can understand it making Keith Lee emotional. But it doesn't feel. I don't know. It's too bleak. It's too dark. It's just.
I'm okay with bleak stuff because what's the best Star Wars movie? It's Empire Strikes Back, man. Because it launches other things, and I do think they needed more to Kross and Lee than just. I showed up. I wrecked a bunch of people, and I'm going for the title. We've seen that.
But if this was the darkest thing WWE had done this week. Yeah. I would be with you, but because there has been so much stuff from WWE, this like I said, Rey Mysterio is missing an eye. Seth Rollins was so violent that it caused him to vomit. Mm-hmm. Bray Wyatt drowned and ate Braun Strowman. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but it wasn't good. And now Karrion Kross is killing people. Karrion Kross. Attempted murder shouldn't be number 4 on my list of crazy stuff that happened this week, but it is. Here we are. So that's it speaks to the fact that they can't even.
I love when we don't agree.
I know. Same.
I agree to not agree with you. But I really did enjoy. I thought both shows were great. I thought AEW and NXT were great. Definitely seek out Eddie Kingston versus Cody, and seek out Cross versus Donovan Dijakovic. You just love.
I can't say it's not interesting. It's just too much. There's just too much in WWE right now that I feel like had they saved this, Karrion Kross would stand out, and you'd be like, oh wow, he's really killing people. But now it kind of feels like, well, you got to kill people to get ahead in WWE. I mean, look how much stuff has happened already this week, and so it doesn't have the weight, it doesn't have the gravity.
All right, well, another strong Wednesday across the board. Do you want to talk about this? Adam Cole, former NXT champion, the man who had the title for a long time, just a few weeks ago, dropping it to Keith Lee in huge fashion. It was a ratings win for WWE that night. Yep. Where has he been? What has he been up to? What's his future?
Losing his mind, apparently.
Losing his mind. Adam Cole appeared on the nationally syndicated Westwood One radio show with Pat McAfee. This is a sports talk show. Now, Pat McAfee has some history with WWE. He's been a color commentator panelist for them on NXT. On the infamous SmackDown with the Saudi Arabia flight delay situation, they flew him in to do color commentary on that show. That really was one of the best SmackDowns of last year. And he made an impression on that. He's quite the sports personality. He has quite the following online. And so there's a big platform to be on his show. But he gets wrestling. He gets it. He doesn't insult it, and obviously he's fond of WWE. This guy owns a ring.
And let's be fair. Even when Pat McAfee insults wrestling, he gets it. Like, he does it to
and he insults it in the sense of the boys. You know, he's talking to the boys. He's trying to get things going here. Yeah. So what a platform to be on. Obviously, if you want to go and maybe cut an angle or do some business outside of the realm of WWE and get the ball rolling towards something, Pat McAfee would be a platform that WWE would be okay with doing because they're familiar with him. And once again, he's a guy they trust. Triple H has been on the show. Undertaker's been on the show. A lot of people have been on the show. So clearly there's some trust there. Adam Cole appears on the show, not via FaceTime like you see everyone on different talk shows now. He's in studio in Indiana. So he made a trip to do this. But Pat McAfee must have got under his skin because across the studio, Pat basically alludes that maybe Adam Cole's not physically big enough to be a big star. And he says along the lines of, "You're no Shawn Michaels." And it's kind of clear this may or may not be an angle. There is some shades of gray there. And Adam Cole just has enough of it, smacks the mic down, starts dropping F-bombs off mic. Now, it's not clear if this made it on the radio. This is a clip that's online. You can see it on their YouTube. We shared it. It's on the WrestleZone Twitter. And the word I heard from people in Westwood One, I can assure you this is a little bit of transparency. I work for a radio company that owns the syndication rights to the Pat McAfee show. I work for Cumulus Broadcasting. And the word is that I don't think everyone knew that was an angle. If it was an angle, not everyone knew that was an angle. And so there was some issue with that. And it's not clear whether or not it aired in every market. I don't think it did. I think maybe they did that off air. But it looked great. And the clip looked great. It looked really cool. And Adam Cole stormed out of the studio, dropping F-bombs going on Pat. And the way it was shot above him. So Adam Cole,
it looks tiny.
Pat's on a little bit of a platform, like his table and everything, and obviously with social distancing, they wanted to be far enough away. So it did look really cool. He smacked the mic down. It looked awesome in terms of just like tense moments. Even if it was staged, it looked cool. But he said, "You're no Shawn Michaels," and that was left to sit for a minute. It wasn't a minute, but it felt like a minute. Let's just run to the conclusion here that some people may be reaching to, and it's a reach. Is there anything to this? Is there anything to this angle? You bring up the name Shawn Michaels. Obviously, some people are going to be, is this a way to get Shawn Michaels back in the ring and have a match with the guy that everyone compares him to in modern age? I know you're wincing. I'm just addressing the immediate thing that I saw people say about this. And that the name was brought up, and it wasn't just like a couple of names. It was put in there, and it was made clear. Hypothetic, and all hypothetically, a word I like to use quite a bit here on the show, since 2020 is the year of hypothetics going into a whole other stage here, right?
Yep.
What an attraction you would have if you said, Adam Cole, you're going to get a match with one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. Sean has already broken his promise of not having any more matches with that awful match they had with DX versus the Brothers of Destruction in Saudi Arabia a year or two ago. If it's something where he only wants to come back for one and it's a singles match, I'm not in love with it. I understand the attraction of it, and it does have some marquee value. I don't see it happening.
No, same. I don't see it happening just on the basis that I think Sean. I get the vibe everyone involved regrets bringing Sean back for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like this is the legacy he wanted to leave.
No,
and this is going to sound crass, but it's especially in WWE, it's a very vain business. No one wants Adam Cole versus bald Shawn Michaels. They want Adam Cole versus Shawn Michaels from the mid-2000s.
You want the video game.
Yeah. Well, and this is going to be maybe too inside baseball, but so much of Shawn Michaels is built around how his hair moves. Ziggler has the same thing. There is a hair.
That is such a like on the surface thing that you wouldn't mention.
There is a hairography to the way that Shawn Michaels wrestled, and
as a bald man, I'm rooting for bald Shawn Michaels.
No, and I think bald Shawn Michaels can do something.
Yeah,
but he's gonna need to.
He's not a sexy boy. He's not a sexy boy.
I'm not saying he's not a sexy boy. In fact, you can be a sexy boy, Shawn Michaels, but you can't.
He a boy toy?
He's still a boy toy. He's still a sexy boy, but he ultimately can't wrestle the same way. He can't sell the same way that he did when he had hair. And
is the timing still going to be there? All those different things. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's not going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so much of a part of it. That's so important to.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't either. But I'm just that's where I'm at with it.
But it was something where people said, "Look, why did they bring up Shawn Michaels' name in the middle of all this?"
I think it's because if you bring up Shawn Michaels' name, it's like if you would it's like if you called Sting the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Because Adam Cole gets compared so much to Shawn Michaels that if I were Pat McAfee and I wanted to piss Adam Cole off to the point where he might get in the ring, get in the ring with me, call him Shawn Michaels. It's like calling it's like calling Tommaso Ciampa Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like if you're gonna run around in the camo and the bald head.
Where does this go?
Huh?
Where does this go? Because
Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole, or Pat McAfee and a tag team versus the Undisputed Era.
I think you're right. I think that's kind of the direction they go in. Or Pat McAfee's in someone's corner.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the idea of McAfee in a tag match like they did with Stephen Amell would probably be the way to go. Because I think McAfee wants to wrestle. I don't think there is nothing about Pat McAfee that says he doesn't want to get in that ring. Exactly. Yeah. He wants to get. Yeah, he wants to get the hell in there.
Yeah.
I think if you were to team McAfee up with, get him with I don't know, because Riddle's already been called up, but whoever the Undisputed Era are feuding with right now, Lorcan, Birch, and get Oney Lorcan and Timothy Thatcher and Pat McAfee on a team. I don't care, but I think
if you're asking me,
I am.
I keep putting this out there. If WWE really wants to they want to throw some star power on Wednesdays. They get one of those guys that's on the shelf that maybe is waiting for things to calm down a bit and come back. And I don't think it's going to happen. I would go big. I wouldn't go in NXT now. I would go out of it. I would say, let's get a Kevin Owens in here. Let's get Kevin Owens with Pat McAfee in his corner against Adam Cole in a one-on-one match. It is a match that Kevin Owens wants. Kevin Owens put it out there. He wants to have more stuff on NXT, even though he's a Raw guy. He showed up at War Games. We're not opposed to the idea, and fans responded to it positively the first time. I also said that I would love to see a Roman Reigns, a huge name, come over to NXT for a cameo, and this would be a situation to do. So we don't know where that's going, but it was certainly an angle. It is up now on the WrestleZone Twitter feed here. Let's get into New Japan. You are the New Japan man.
Yep.
New Japan has a huge event this weekend with Sengoku. You obviously are talking to a man who is very intimate with this on the podcast, Tama's Island, Tama Tonga. We have a new episode of that up. We'll talk about the latest with that. But let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're double champion. They're intercontinental. They're world champion. He is Evil. That is his name. He will reign supreme as he takes on Hiromu Takahashi. Not Tanahashi, Takahashi. I almost messed it up. So Evil is the big man, the big tall goth slamming monster, taking on the beloved, colorful, eccentric cruiserweight, light heavyweight. I'll be term specific here this weekend. What is the latest with that?
Well, it's going to be a very heated match. Hiromu is not happy with Evil. Evil, when Evil left LIJ, he broke a lot of hearts, but none more so than Hiromu Takahashi. In fact, when Dominion went off the air, it wasn't with Evil holding both belts. It was Hiromu literally with the words "Y" written in Japanese all over his wrist tape, yelling incoherently into the abyss, like the end of Old Boy or something. It was a very dramatic moment.
Movies on me. You're doing art house movie references.
Hey, I try my best. And in fact, if we're talking references, I do apologize. Earlier, I said Sisyphus was punished for stealing fire from the gods. He was punished for being deceitful. It was Prometheus that stole fire from the gods. I don't want to be giving wrong myth. I don't want to be spreading the wrong myths.
Ross with a $10 reference there. $10, not a $5 word.
But back to Evil versus Hiromu Takahashi. Evil has already beaten the hell out of Sonata in the New Japan Cup, so Sonata doesn't feel betrayed by Evil. He already wants nothing to do with Evil. Naito has already lost to Evil, so he can't avenge him. Bushi is a light heavyweight, and even then is usually outside of things. Shingo Takagi is busy defending the Never Openweight Championship against El Desperado. So that really leaves only Hiromu Takahashi to defend Los Ingobernables de Japon's honor against Evil. And if he can do it, it would be great. There is an old Japanese myth about the Sengoku period that there was an evil lord that ruled for only 13 days, and Evil will, in fact, be defending his title 13 days into his reign. So if Hiromu beats him, there is a historical precedent there, but
both titles on the line here?
Both titles are on the line, and Hiromu is already the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, so
all three singles titles for the men's, major ones,
would be on Hiromu if he won. How likely that is, I don't know. Like I said, the Sengoku period has a precedent, but we aren't in the Sengoku period anymore. We're in 2020, and Evil is reigning supreme. So we will see. But it should be a very interesting match. It's going to take place at 5 a.m. Saturday morning on New Japan World. Not only is Evil defending both the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship against Hiromu Takahashi, but like I said, Shingo Takagi will be taking on El Desperado, defending his Never Openweight title. And Kazuchika Okada will be taking on Bullet Club's Yujiro Takahashi to earn a modicum of revenge for Yujiro helping Evil beat Okada in the New Japan Cup final. It's not the first time that Yujiro has screwed over Okada. In fact, when Yujiro joined Bullet Club in the first place, it was doing it to help AJ Styles beat Okada for the heavyweight title. So Yujiro and Okada have a rivalry that stretches all the way back to about 2014, 2015, and they'll finally get a chance to settle some scores.
Kazuchika Okada recently made some public comments that got a little bit of attention, and he said these in the press, and basically alluded that the title situation has kind of been undervalued, and the idea of tying both the titles to one wrestler as Evil took the Intercontinental and the World title of New Japan off one guy, and now he has both of them again. And they both the belts have moved to one wrestler. And Okada was very proud of his run as the world champion, really establishing the history and prestige of that title and reviving it, making one of those titles that hardcore fans love to see defended, and almost the title being bigger than any of the performers in the ring. And Okada was proud of that, recently saying that it's kind of undervalued now. What do you think of that?
I think he makes it's a point that a lot of people, even Tetsuya Naito, the whole reason Naito was so abusive to the Intercontinental title during his first reign with it was because he didn't understand what it was for. But ultimately, what Okada's saying echoes back to the beginnings of the Intercontinental Championship. Because while Okada is trying to rebuild the prestige of the IWGP Heavyweight title in the mid 2010s, you also have Shinsuke Nakamura trying to build the prestige of the Intercontinental title. In fact, the whole reason the Intercontinental title was ever at the point where it could be unified with the world title the way that it has in the past year is because of Tanahashi and Nakamura's rivalry in the mid 2000s, elevating that belt to a main event level. And Okada and Nakamura had their own kind of rivalry for control of chaos, and so the Intercontinental title has always represented a threat to Okada's reign as the new ace of New Japan. Because as long as Okada is the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, he's the heir apparent to Hiroshi Tanahashi, he's the new ace, he's the franchise player. But as long as there's that Intercontinental title out there, whether it's held by a Tetsuya Naito, whether it's held by a Jay White, it was always a threat to that top spot. And now that top spot has been combined, and notice who's not in that main event scene right now. Okada. Now that both titles have been unified, it went to Naito, then it went to Evil, but Okada has been kind of out of it. And in the same interview,
maybe a little bit of saltiness from Okada.
Well, because in the interview you're referencing, he doesn't only say that it's undervalued. He also says that he's going to step away from the main event title scene for a little bit, as if he was already in it when he was knocked out of the main event title scene at the end of May when he lost the New Japan Cup, or at the beginning of July. Because when Okada loses the New Japan Cup this year, especially after losing both title belts in the Dome on January 4th, there has been a dramatic slide down the card that has nothing to do with Okada's personal feelings about the IWGP title. Yes, has it maybe been undervalued? Yeah. Yes, but ultimately the main event scene says they don't need him right now.
And part of that is the pandemic as well. I mean, New Japan does have a little bit of the big period for them is January in Tokyo Dome, and he was a big part of that. And they set up some things and they did some stuff in February, and then boom, so Okada, one of those big names, like, what are you doing with him? And New Japan Cup was more just about let's just get everybody back out here. Let's just get everybody back out here. Let's get Evil as our new guy. Let's try some new things. And Okada is a huge name, and I could see some people, like a big name like him, kind of getting lost in the shuffle, if you will.
You have to remember, before COVID-19, Kazuchika Okada was supposed to be an Olympic torchbearer. He was supposed to carry the Olympic torch through Tokyo in representing New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, he was going to be on the international stage, the face of the company. And now everything is different. The entire order has been, everything has slidden in every direction now. And Okada, and it's
are we going to have more live fans at these events this weekend? There was a big story last week.
It's still going to be, I think they'll still be at about 30% capacity, but Japan is working its way up to eventually being able to do 50% capacity. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a full dome, but it sounds like they're going to be able to do Tokyo Dome this year. It sounds like New Japan, because the Japanese government was able to kind of get everything in place and shut down long enough. It's looking like Japanese wrestling will be back on track in 2021.
Well before the United States.
Long before the United States. I'm still mourning. Do you know how many memes I had planned for Survivor Series, Kevin? November 22nd in Dallas, Texas. You don't get a date like that and a location like that and an opportunity like that for a history nerd like me. And now it's lost. It's like tears and rain, Kevin.
You and the phrases, Greek gods. You're bringing up the assassination of JFK. You are wheeling it all in. Everything gets in the pot. Everything.
I went from JFK to Blade Runner. Find me another podcaster that can do that. Find him. I will sit here and wait.
All right, Philip K. Dick over here, just going deep. Rob. So, but I mean, live fans, it was a big thing. That was a big topic, and we did the show last week. And I like having you here on the Thursday, so we can do Thursdays together again as well. But I mean, it was a thrill, and I had some fans that listened to the show and then they went and checked it out. They said it was just very fun, even though and there is that loss in translation thing with New Japan,
especially. And I do have to warn any fan that's like thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get back into New Japan." They don't have English commentary. Kevin Kelly is stuck in America. Chris Charlton is stuck somewhere else.
Are they doing a post-production?
What I'm getting at. 1 to 2 days later, they will have the English commentary up. They've been having Kevin Kelly's been doing it. Rocky Romero, Gino Gambino. They will have English commentary up. They have been keeping up with that. But if you're watching live, it's gonna be Japanese. Yeah.
The logistics of doing that live with them here in the United States would have to be really hard. I mean, we've heard stories that Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix right now are not at the Full Sail University when they're doing NXT. When Mauro's doing that, and even when he did the takeover as well, he is at home. Yep. So he's doing the show from home. And so that, like, the logistics of doing that are through the roof. And New Japan doesn't have that huge media infrastructure like other companies do, though they're running these big places. Yep. You know, I mean, I don't think really they have that. But it is impressive that they're running these arenas at like capacity, like a quarter of the capacity. You mentioned like 30%. So, and the shows last weekend with Dominion, those were in 12,000 seat arenas, but they're running around 3,500 to 3,800 fans for 2 nights. This is just a really good thing for wrestling. I do think this is something that if you're WWE, if you're AEW, one of those other major companies, obviously if you're Ring of Honor and Impact as well, this is something you got to look at how they're doing this.
Oh, absolutely. I keep talking about how WWE and AEW, as this goes longer and they keep feeling more trapped, how it becomes less of a distraction. New Japan has really shown that if you to borrow a comedy term, if you hang a lampshade on the fact that stuff is going on, if you show the commentators and there is space between them and one of them's on a video screen because they can't fit him into the thing, if you actually show people in raincoats wiping down the ring, you can still have fun and you can still enjoy the show. And it doesn't have to be a distraction. You can be reminded that the world isn't normal and it's not going to be normal for a while, but life,
and that's okay.
But exactly, because life finds a way. Like humanity finds a way to make the things we want work. Ultimately, when we finally return to whatever normalcy will be in the United States, it's not going to be the status quo from before. It's going to be a new normal. And so we need, as long as everyone understands that, you know, that people are trying, that will go so much farther in reassuring your audience than pretending nothing is happening.
True. And I do think there's been times when AEW, I think, maybe brings it up too much.
Yeah.
Or
no, I think AEW, they operate like they have a responsibility to remind you to wear your mask. Yeah. Like, you really do get that vibe from the commentators that, like, everyone just wear your mask so we can stop doing this. And I thought
WWE was smart to put that mask policy in place where everyone around the ring has to wear a mask. They put up the hockey boards. I thought those are great. Also, if you see a WWE event in 2020 in front of fans, those hockey boards are going to be there. I mean,
the hockey boards are going to be there long after, even when we get to the point where COVID is like smallpox or whatever, where it's completely erased. Those hockey boards are going to be there. They're having too much fun with them to get rid of them at this point.
And they do look cool.
Yeah, well, if you want to be
the hockey board at a match,
absolutely. Rig one of them to do the thing where, you know, you go through the boards. It'll be great. It'll be so much fun. And so it's stuff like that I think do a better job of reassuring the audience than that original, hey, nothing's happening, we're just in the performance center because we wanted to be.
And there is pivoting. It is such a fluid situation where there was a period, I think maybe in April or May, where it was, we just want a pure escape. Don't tell me about it. I want to be in the bunker and not feel this. And I do think now we're in this sense of we can look out the window, you know, and we can acknowledge these different things. And WWE had that outbreak. We don't know how many people got it. Hopefully everyone's okay.
Exactly. And it was bound. One of those things where it was like, it was bound to happen, where they're getting, everyone's going to be reacting to this. There's because of how deep into this we are, there's no way to actually have a foolproof plan. It's all got to be improv. It's all got to just be rolling with it.
Yes, and Tama's Island. What is going on in the latest episode of that? You joining New Japan Pro Wrestling's own Tama Tonga. He's one of the American talents there that is in this tough situation with not being able to head over to Japan. There's many big names that want to head over there. We did that interview this week with Doc Gallows over in the WrestleZone feed, where he talks about, I'm going to go over there at some point. What's going on in the latest episode with Tama Tonga?
Oh, it's still what it's been. This week we talked about the lost members of Bullet Club. We talked about some of the your Cody Halls, your El Terribles, your Jeff Jarrett's, people who people don't necessarily always remember were a part of Bullet Club. We talk about who may be considered an honorary member, who might have some chances at maybe a second chance at the Bullet Club ranks, because there are some folks that it sounds like Tama feels like could maybe flourish if given a second chance. It's been interesting because Tama's in the same position we all are. He's just trying to get back to the point where he can wrestle again. There's a glimmer of hope now that New Japan is doing those LA tapings, so hopefully they can find a way to get some of the Florida talent out there.
If they, a lot of those
they're great.
Those Lions Break Collision shows.
New Japan Lions Break Collision LA shows have been fantastic. It's 30 minutes of very easily digestible, simple wrestling matches. There's no story. It's just matches. It's the exact opposite of NWA Power. So remember how NWA Power was all about the aesthetic? It was all about the commercials. It was all about the promos. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but the matches were secondary.
Yeah.
This is just literally all about the matches. You got guys like Tom Lawler wrestling in jorts. It's different enough to be fun while everyone is still wrestling that grounded, competitive New Japan style.
It's dojo style wrestling.
Exactly. And so the ring is smaller, the production is tighter. It's a very good, easily digestible show. Shout out to Rocky Ribeiro, who I know has been really integral in making those shows run. It's been a good time. Tama keeps talking about the idea of how do you do that on the East Coast, because I think he's starting to get that itch. He's like the Eric Andre meme where he wants to be let in. Just let me wrestle.
You want to talk about a great comedy special? Go seek out Eric Andre special on Netflix.
Yes.
Very, very funny.
Oh.
So that is what is going on with you. People can give you a follow. Ross W. Berman IV on Twitter. Go ahead and check that out as well. You can give me a follow at Kellam on the Twitter machine. And, of course, check out WrestleZone on the Twitter. We've been so busy, man. We've had so much stuff here. So much content on the podcast feed. Fridays as well, we drop 2 Dynamite Dudes with Attitudes. The D'Angelo brothers, Dominic D'Angelo and his brother Marcus, breaking down everything going on with All Elite Wrestling. If you're just AEW, and that's all you want to hear about, that's what that show is for. Also, 4 episodes of WrestleZone daily, just WrestleZone, me yelling, WrestleZone! You're going to get that, okay? So also, we have a bunch of different stuff up on YouTube right now. So everything you hear with us audio-wise, you can also get the YouTube version of it. I got to talk about this interview with Doc Gallows. A big get, if you will. We talked to him about his jump over to Impact Pro Wrestling, the upcoming comedy wrestling event of the year, Talkin' Shopomania, the boner match. Okay, there's gonna be a boner match. A bunch of different former WWE names are gonna be there. Enzo is there. They do the show in Doc Gallows' backyard.
Yep.
It's this was filmed recently. This was filmed, I believe, 12 days. Or maybe like within 2 weeks of them leaving WWE, they put this together fairly quickly. And it sounds like a really, really fun show. And it's going to be a pay-per-view coming up on August 1st. We're going to talk more about that as we get closer to it. So this interview kind of sets that all up. Thank you to him. Did that while he was on a road trip.
Yep. He's been a busy boy. Like all props to Luke Gallows. Like the man hustles.
Mm-hmm.
Man hustles hard.
So I like this Thursday afternoon thing with you, Ross. I think maybe this is something we should keep on the docket here for a while. We should definitely have you back. I hope you're doing well.
You as well.
All that good stuff. We're burning down all the TV shows, binging.
Yep.
I've been watching a little bit of Peacock, the new.
How is Peacock? I haven't subscribed to Peacock yet.
It's different.
Okay.
I know a lot of guys are watching different things, and streaming is much more the thing. And there's another streaming service, right? But I will credit NBC Universal in the way they've pivoted with it. It's a free entry of this. There's a lot of free stuff on this, and it kind of comes in like Hulu did initially, where it was free for a long, long time with ad supported, and then there's tiers, and you can pay $5 in, and you get more stuff. They do have a great flurry of things, but the nice thing is they have an on-demand offering and a channel offering. So they have a channel that's just Saturday Night Live, and it's just random clips, and it's very. If you just want to watch,
so it's kind of built like the old Simpsons channel, where they had you had the on demand, but they also they had dedicated channels devoted to the episodes of the Simpsons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you get the next day stuff. There's some talk that this may aggravate the NBC affiliates who just want it over the air television. There's some talk that you might be able to get the Tonight Show like a couple hours before it comes out broadcast on TV. You might be able to get it, so that isn't sure. WWE will have content on Peacock. It will be select titles from WWE Network. That'll be in August. We don't have the exact date. It may not be a lot, but it'll be a handful of different things you get that you would see on the network already. So it's just another way, maybe more. It's definitely something more for the casual fan.
I'm still stuck on that Tonight Show thing, because if they do that, man, I lived through the Conan versus Jay. How do we have the Tonight Show at its current time slot?
I was at the protest. I was in college.
Yeah.
I went to the protest.
Team Coco, baby. Team Coco. But like just the idea that people fought, people lost their jobs, people like were in breach of contract over keeping that time slot sacrosanct, and now they're like, streaming, baby. I guess we're gonna have to give it to you a couple hours early. Sorry, Jimmy.
Isn't exactly clear. I could see that being something really beneficial more to Late Night with Seth Meyers, which airs at 12:30 on the East Coast. And
Seth Meyers, I gotta understand but they do that with the Tonight Show. I mean, that's.
Jimmy Fallon still puts up some great numbers, man. Great.
And that's what I mean. Is like he's done a good enough job that's like you don't have to cannibalize it like that. You don't have to.
I there was some talk of it, but it isn't for sure. I haven't seen it on it. And mind you, this just came out like it's just over a week old. And they're doing some different things with it, and it leans into like feeling like television. Whereas when you put on Netflix, it definitely feels different. When you put on Netflix, it's red, boom, boom, boom. This feels like TV when you put it on. It just feels like another part of your thing. And you don't need if you're a Comcast Xfinity Internet subscriber, you get this already. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, so it's like HBO Max, where it's just
Yeah, so if you're an HBO subscriber, you get HBO Max. And there's $5, $10 for no ads. So that's kind of the window, and it's tiered up. And pay attention to that, because we've heard of WWE doing the tiered thing. Watch how that's done. Like there's a free version of WWE Network. There's the $10 version where you get everything else on it. And
there's already talk that Evolve and WXW are coming to the network. So I gotta believe that's coming with the announcement of some kind of tier.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. WWE's had the $10 price point for a while.
Well, it's an open secret that even when they announced the $9.99, they were undervaluing themselves so dramatically that like it's been due. I mean, it made it real easy just to be like, hey, I'll try it for a few months. It made it real easy at $10 a month for any casual fan to come. But it did undervalue them to the point where, like, I mean, that was one of the big sticking points why CM Punk left, is because once it's $9.99, what do the payouts turn into for pay-per-views and yada yada yada. And so the fact that they're finally going to be generating more revenue from the network as opposed to just putting more content on, it does bode well. It bodes very well.
And I think looking at what Peacock is doing, looking at what HBO Max is doing, and the fact that WWE has all these different splintered partnerships with Fox, with ESPN. They've had WrestleMania's air on ESPN, stuff on different, Fox Sports and ESPN need content. They still need that stuff. And they've utilized WWE to do it. NBC has been a partner with WWE for decades now. The fact that they're going to put stuff on Peacock is serious. It's a big effort from them. I wouldn't be surprised if you get some type of specials that are exclusive to NBC Universal in the future as well. So something to follow. All right, we will return on Monday night after Monday Night Raw, all that good stuff. Check out Thomas Island with Ross W. Berman. Of course, subscribe to this podcast if you're checking out for the first time. Thank you so much. We love doing the super long shows on Thursday. Look at us ripping about NBC shows and streaming and all that fun stuff.
Oh, yeah, we get wild on Thursday.
We get wild, baby. We get wild. All right, thank you so much, Ross. Hope you're well. All right, I will see you next week. I will see all of you next week. Hope you're washing your hands. Hope you're keeping your mask on. All right, you wear a mask, somebody else wears a mask. That's a tag team win right there. All right, that is a doomsday device, not for us, for the coronavirus. All right.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Adam Pearce and WWE mocking the coronavirus, holding up the big NWA strap, pointing at the virus in the ring that he had just whomped. Okay, all right. Pin that virus to the mat. That virus, you ain't going to sell for it. You're going to sell for that SOB. 2-week match, and you get out of that son of a bitch. All right? All right.
I'm saying it's a lot easier to pin if you flatten it.
It's a lot. Come on. Put that shoulder to the mat. All right? We're going to give you a quick count like Mike Tyson back in the day. All right. All right. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Ross, when watching wrestling, you have to enjoy it.
Yes.